My name is Ray Alexander and welcome to Serious Aerospace. I'm your host and this is This Month in Spaceflight. This month in Spaceflight we will showcase a lot in this month of March as we will start with different testing of two different rockets that we are currently in manufacturing. We got two different rockets that are currently on manufacturing, which is the Mayon T1.0. The Mayon T1.0 just started its testing yesterday on March 2 with its first ever static fire test on the booster or the first stage. We will get the testing of Mayon T1.0 boosters very soon, and we are still currently getting onto the main platforms of Mayon. And this actual rocket would soon be used into the mission of the ACIM or uh, asteroid composition investigation mission. This mission will actually go into the different stages of the asteroid and will go around into the solar system, going onto different asteroids. One of its main objectives, or one of its major object objectives, is the Vesta asteroid. It would probably arrive Vesta at the end of the year or the end or the start of 2025. Now let's go into Molnia 1. Molnia 1 will finally have a new sister. Well, Molnia 2 will be starting its manufacturing and testing in the middle of March. Molnia 2 will be a much more highly modified version of Molnia 1, and it would be a highly efficient type of rocket. Molnia 2 will have much more engines on the first stage and it will be expandable, while Molnia 1 is expandable and reusable. Molnia 2 is more out of reusability. It is currently more into how many payload it would put into space. Molnia 2 will be used into future missions, especially on the Lunar Gateway missions and others. Now let's go into Zenith LGM. This is only a short video, so it would be quite the fast thing that we will go to. The Zenith LGM, it has a tiny bit of history, and I like it. But for our team, it's much more unlikely about the history. Zenith LGM was launched on February 5th, 2024. It was launched on top of a Proton K UR500K rocket, which is expandable with a third stage to make it go into the lunar orbit. It got into translunar injection into February 5th, just shortly after the day. On February 7th, the Lunar Gateway module Zenith LGM finally got into the lunar orbit or lunar distant retrograde orbit. But there was kind of a catch. The Zenith LGM lost connection into our live stream or live webcast of the lunar injection burn. This burn lasted for 3 minutes and we literally lost all contacts on the Zenith LGM, which made our team pretty sketchy about what was going on. Zenith LGM team has finally conducted many tests and many different things before this happened. So this was kind of a new thing onto the module because this isn't supposed to happen. This isn't just some sort of launch it and put it into this direction, then it's gone. We literally couldn't track any of it. We literally couldn't have any traces of it. We tested many things for 2 weeks until it was finally rediscovered on February 21st when the Farad sat finally actually discovered small traces of radio emissions and radio signals from something. Well, not just something, it's actually an object that was going into an orbit around the Earth, but it was a very eccentric orbit and it was on high Earth orbit. Zenith LGM finally seen on February 27th, 2024, and it actually released some of these images that you will currently see on the screen. Like this image where it was seen by Strumman Observatory as a small dot, this image which was seen from the same observatory, Strumman Observatory, but you can currently see two solar arrays on the top that are not damaged, but on the bottom it is. So what actually happened on the Zenith LGM? So let's get onto the history of what really happened. The Zenith LGM, or the Zenith Lunar Gateway Module, lost its communications and systems on February 7th, 2024. What really happened? Well, it seems like the main transmitter systems and the CDL, or the deployment lar- the coronal deployment largs, was actually not working. These deployment systems are not working properly, so they had to cut off all systems. When they finally cut off all systems, it literally shut it down everything. All communications, all of it, including lasers, radio, and many other more types of communications that we can actually fit in this rocket. For 4 hours, it literally coasted around the moon, but it did not orbit the moon properly. It orbited the moon 2 times and then literally shut it out into Earth's orbit again. When it got shut out of the lunar orbit, and there it is again. We saw it. There it is again. On the day of February 8th, we got something. The Lunar Gateway Module Zenith actually separated from the third stage, but there is something that happened. Shortly after separation of the third stage to the Zenith Lunar Gateway Module, the third stage exploded. Yeah, it just went kapoosh. It exploded shortly, or 4.36 seconds after separation. The Zenith LGM NavCam 2 did not see this explosion, but shortly before the explosion, it actually captured something. The moon. Literally the moon shining onto its cameras. The NavCam 2 only had a single camera filter, which is kind of ironic. It's a navigation camera. It's an inverted filter, which is kind of useless, but it still works for hazard cams and many other more. Zenith LGM was seen back on February 27th, and actually we got some receivers going back and forth right now, but we are currently thinking of a way to literally dispose this whole Lunar Gateway Module. We're literally going to dispose a $550 million spacecraft into the sea, somewhere, we hope. In February 4th or February 7th, the Lunar Gateway Module will do its closest here at Earth with 146 kilometers at apoapsis. Oh, I'm sorry, perigee or periapsis, the closest it could be on Earth. Sorry, I got a little bit confused with some of the measurements here. The Zenith Lunar Gateway Module will be disposed of very soon, but now let's go to the Asteroid Composition Investigation Mission. The Asteroid Composition Investigation Mission, or ACIM, well, that's its name, ACIM. Let's just go with it. ACIM will launch probably in the second week or the fourth week of March. Well, it changed. April. That's where it probably is, and that's where it could be. But April is a very good chance to launch this thing before we can even see Starship go launch again for its third flight, or the third test flight, whatever. It will be launched in April, or the Asteroid Composition Investigation Mission will be launched on April. The first destination will be not an asteroid, but Venus. It will go to Venus for a gravity assist and finally go back to Earth with a much more stronger gravity assist to go to the asteroid belt, to Vesta. Finally, it would go to Vesta, orbit it a couple of times, take images, and do tests on the asteroid, and finally go into a different asteroid. We are still planning some things onto the ACIM, especially onto its main aircraft or main spacecraft, the Mayon T1.0. Mayon T1.0 is still on development, and we are still doing a lot of tests in this spacecraft. Well, a lot will happen onto this month of March, and we are currently taking the trajectories of launch this month. We are thinking of more than 20 launches this month, and we already had two different tests, which is Mayon and the Molnia 2. The Molnia 2 boosters are currently in testing and manufacturing. We are still doing a lot of work into the grandstand of Mayon and Molnia 2. On to Molnia 1, we're going to do a much more very hard modification on the Molnia 1 with its B4 type, and the B5 classes of Starship would be able to maintain its accuracy onto pointing onto objects, because we need to put lunar gateway assistance and lunar gateway modules onto lunar low orbit. We got a lot of launches ahead, so what you currently see on the screen will be the list of the possible launches this March. And also in March, there would be a lot of things happening, so stay tuned into this channel. And also on our Facebook channel, well, we have a Facebook channel and Facebook page. Go to our Facebook page, we got a lot more things and a lot more updates in there. And I'll see you next time. This is Sirius Aerospace, Godspeed, and I'll see you next time.